I think we're on. I think we're good. I think we're on. So far, this show sucks. I didn't do nothing yet. All right, here we go. Uh, Kevin Keller's in the house. I know that's true. Shout out to Clee's sister. What you're seeing right now, since we're talking about scary stuff, horror stuff, amazing stuff, the Clee charcoal heads. Uh, there's fun there, but there's also horror. These heads are absolutely incredible. I'm right in the middle, top row, center. That's me, younger, sexier me without a hat. I'm sure Clee is in there somewhere. Yeah, Clee. I think Clee is right below me, but on the bottom row. Mrs. Comic might also be in here. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, let's rock this thing. Here we go. Howdy do, folks. Ramy Amish Comic here, streaming live for my unshunned on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays suck batshit balls, and we're trying to make Tuesdays suck less. Plus, it's working out great for me and Mrs. Comic. Show schedules on the weekends, and sometimes we do fun stuff on the weekend. And you peckerheads, I mean that in a nice way, do fun stuff on the weekend. So that's rock and roll. As always, your tips and generous donations and trying to bribe me to stream longer or drink are always greatly appreciated. And once again, I don't really have anything specific prepared. There's a lot of reasons why, but that's just kind of making excuses. So, but I did make a few notes here, and also, let's see here. One of the reasons that I'm not prepared is actually connected to things that are scary. So we're trying to did some ghost stories last week. I don't have any ghost stories ready tonight, but scary is such a weird thing because we want to be scared for entertainment, but not too scared. We want to be scared in like a safe environment. Uh, David Lynch wrote many of his most frightening, scream in the night things at a diner for safety reasons of his own. He didn't trust his own brain. I mean, he wrote so scary and went so deep and dark that it scared the fuck out of even him. He could ground himself in the diner. I don't know if people sat around a diner and had any idea. I mean, if if I knew David Lynch was at the diner writing Twin Peaks season 4, Richter and I would be like assholes buying him like fucking coffee and cherry pie. So I don't know uh, too much about scary stuff, but uh, pretty much anything can scare you at any given time. The teeniest, tiniest little stuff can scare you. I find this absolutely fascinating. Um, I made some notes here, but I don't really need my notes for what scares us by surprise, and that's really what it is. The surprise is the thing that scares you, because if you're expecting a certain exact thing to happen and something else happens, that's enough to scare you. And if you're like myself and Mrs. Comic, we when the thing that was supposed to happen didn't happen, we sometimes over the cuckoo's nest and just assume it's the worst possible thing, right down to teeny tiny little things. Like if you put your hand in a bag or drawer expecting to pick up an exact thing like this pen, and Richter snuck in there and put a little jar of goo in that jar, and your hand goes in the goo. That's scary fucking shit. Right away, you're thinking, I put my hand in fucking brains. I put my hand. The scream will happen, and sometimes you don't even want to look to see what the goo is that you put your hand in. Maybe the jar of Vaseline was open. I don't really know. So surprise textures that we feel can scare the fuck out of you. Also, stepping on weird shit can scare the fuck out of you. I'm very sensitive to noise, and uh, there's crinkle paper around here. Mary runs around. The cats love paper. Don't buy them cat toys. Just get them paper. They just lose their fucking minds. But when I step on that paper and crinkle it, that can scare the fuck out of me. And just teeny tiny little weird shit. Here's one that scares the fuck out of all of us. Is that when you do a flight of stairs up or down, and it's pretty bad lighting, and you're on the way up, you think there's an extra step, but there isn't. And yet that's a whole big, almost fucking cartwheel scenario. And we right away we assume, fuck, somebody did something to us. That's what scares you there. And the opposite is when you come down and you think there's another step, but it's all floor. And somehow I think that's way worse because it's like a fucking concrete, so almost like running into a wall. So the dumbest shit, little surprise things can scare us. Other people can scare. Our pets can scare us. Our pets can scare the fuck out of us. You've all done it. You've all done it. You'd be like, oh, what's wrong? The dog's acting fucking weird, and you can't really put exactly your finger on it. Then you have to explain what the dog did, and if it involves any kind of noise, oh, it never does that. That upsets the dog, and it will not repeat that noise. It'll make a new noise, and then that'll be really fucking weird. So when our pets make weird noises, that can scare the fuck out of us. Mrs. Comic and I, we can scream and run in terror if somebody knocks on our door or dings our doorbell because we don't fucking get people. And unless when we have people coming over, we know who they are, and then we can expect exact people. But if we're not expecting anything, that's all it takes to put us over the cuckoo's nest. Pow! The dumbest shit scares us. Now back to these Klee heads. Look at these are kind of sort of totally amazing. I was so lucky not to just have this amazing friend Klee, who happened to be a brilliant artist, but he didn't have wall space to put his stuff up. I believe he had quite possibly like 300 of those heads, and I offered my room to just put them up so we could see them and enjoy them and take pictures of them to present and other things. And it got to the point where there were, and Clee would just rearrange them. I'd be off working in a toaster factory, and that's another scary thing. Toaster factory. Don't work in a fucking toaster factory. So when I come back, and Clee might have the heads looping over the ceiling, the walls all covered with heads. Absolutely fantastic. We had a couple of people in there. Friends stopped in, and one guy said, "This is like a museum of natural weirdness, and you really should charge admission for people to come in there." I said, "That's a very excellent point. So you're gonna have to pay $20 or go get us a case of beer, or you're gonna have to fucking leave." And he did leave because I was somebody I didn't really like that well. I don't know how they wound up in my house, but I got rid of them pretty darn quick. But those heads, we loved them. I mean, we just loved them. When you sit there, and then yeah, we'd fire up some naughty stuff, but that didn't really affect the enjoyment of them. The heads were like just absolutely incredible. But some people freaked out in there. But I don't know, not too many, but more than one person was made to feel very uncomfortable when they found themselves in a room surrounded by all these heads. And when I mean surrounded, that's 3 rows of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's about less than 60 heads. But Clee had like 300 of these fuckers, and somebody freaked out in there, and they actually said that they didn't want to be rude, but I gotta get out of here. I just fucking gotta get out of here. I would say it probably wouldn't have been a good idea to be on cocaine to have all those heads floating all around you. So Clee used his artwork. He had a kind of a, well, he's a Halloween birthday, so a lot of his artwork was kind of dark and creepy, but also beautiful and gorgeous. And I learned some tricks from him about scary shit. Uh, you, you could pay money for this shit, but you probably have clothing in your house that you could make your own dummy this time of year. Get the pants, get the shirt, stuff them up, put them in there, and if you don't have a head, it's fucking awesome. That's the beauty of Halloween and scary shit. If things are wrong, that adds to the thing. And then if you have a head, what makes things scary is if they don't match. So if you put a little baby head on this big old gorilla thing, that becomes scary. Things out of whack become scary. Um, People making the wrong face is really fucking scary. I know this to be true because when we went, Mrs. Comic saw The Exorcist for the first time about a week and a half ago in the theater. I can't believe she hadn't seen it, and I can believe she hadn't seen it on the big screen. But I fucking love all that stuff, and I like to see my wife afraid of films. So I was glancing over, and so I'm imagining anybody in the theater who possibly would have seen me making this face during like a head whipping around pea soup, that's probably scary. That you see something really fucking scary, and there's some nitwit like this going, see, what the fuck is wrong with him? And also, the opposite is true. If you have somebody who's at a fun uh, ice cream and cake party and they're making this face, that's just as fucking scary. So a lot of the point of all this babbling here and rambling is that a lot of this shit that scares us is really just a surprise. It's the wrong thing. In the wrong setting, and when you sort it out, you're still not good right away. It just scared the fuck out of you. Well, one of the worst possible things to scare the fuck out of you is if you get a surprise thing that you eat. You're eating something and you're expecting it to be a thing, and it's something else. Right away, you ate a zombie's brain, maggot stomachs, fucking cockroaches, whatever it is. I just and you throw it, and then you find, oh, it's candy corn, but you're still not okay. Example back to David Lynch, Twin Peaks. Uh, th- there's a fish, fellas. Don't drink that coffee. There was a fish in the percolator. Now they didn't even drink the fucking coffee, but the visual of fish in the coffee in the percolator fucked up like their next five coffees because it got in their head, and so that stuff fascinates me. So they do it in horror movies too. Horror movies, man, it's really tough to scare me in a horror movie because they have all the cliches that they do. That the telling music, this creepy music. So don't go outside. And of course, you fucking go outside. What they do now, and they think I don't know, but I know. They know that I know. They're gonna tell the scare with the scary music, and then so then they don't give it to you. They do it all the time. It's a teaser, and it's well, you turn the corner. Oh, it's just Coca Cola, and that's it. And then when you relax, my head gets fucking chopped off during the Coca Cola refreshing time. That's kind of a dick move in horror movies, but they absolutely do it. And the other thing that scares us all is doctors' offices and hospitals are probably the scariest fucking places on earth. It's just there's no. If it doesn't matter if it's an old horrible one or if it's a newer one, they just scare the fuck out of you. Doctors' offices are especially scary. I don't know if they have it that bad anymore, but the old doctors' offices used to have like a smell to them, and it was not Dr. Pepper. It was just kind of like an office doctor smell, and just that smell would be enough to fuck you up. So those things are kind of like really not really that exciting of a story, and I feel kind of terrible now because I'm supposed to be presenting entertainment, and that's really fucking weird. Um, Well, I babble. I do a lot of reruns here. The Alexa, which I didn't want to say because now the blue light's whipping around, that we renamed Babumsa. She actually is a lot of fun around the holidays. I don't know if this will make it through or not, but like, let me try, sir. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 7:46 p.m.
That wasn't fucking scary at all. Alexa, what's the weather?
The current weather is 55 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies.
So,
Tonight, you can expect just a few clouds in the sky, with a low of 40 degrees.
well, I will expect them. So we renamed that thing Babumsa, so that wouldn't happen when we started talking about. Babumsa's got some actually really fun uh, Halloween spooky trivia facts. And I don't know if I touched on it last week or not, but one of the things that I found fascinating that they used to have safety coffins with a bell because people were worried they would be buried alive, and they decided it's probably a good idea if there's a little bell in there in case I wake up in the coffin and I'm not dead. There should be a bell and a string to pull, and the bell goes saved by the bell. That's where they got that phrase. But I don't know if you bought a coffin with a bell in it in case you got buried alive and you had to ring the bell. I don't know what kind of warranty that has because that lends itself to the idea that I mean these are the olden days. So that bell wasn't any kind of app that set off alarms in your iPhone. That bell could only just ding something up in the cemetery. So if you sold that coffin with the Saved by the Bell, I believe you should actually have to sit there for an amount of days because if, once they put you in the ground and then they go, you can ding that thing till the fucking cows come home. And who's gonna hear you? So, and they charged extra for that. So the people who got that, I'll bet you some people weren't dead and they ding the bell and they fucking ding the fuck out of it and nobody came because who's on the fucking cemetery unless there's a bell ringing, a bell hearing possibility listening job where you would just pay. I could do a job like that. I'd just sit there and wait for the bell. 48 hours, I guess we'd give them 24 hours. I don't know. So that's some fun, creepy shit. I gotta get some more. I have to be better prepared. Um, but I love some of the crazy shit that they used to scare us with.
Amy said, "Have you ever seen Candyman, the original with Tony Todd? That was a good scary movie."
Candyman, the original, is absolutely fantastic, and I like it for even like kind of snooty, artsy reasons. Soundtrack by Philip Glass. That's absolutely incredible. Candyman, and that concept is been done a lot, but that's one of the best ones where you say a thing in the mirror, and if you say it too many times, fuck you and a bucket of goo. That is actually really a great scary movie. That held up. That stood the test of time. We have fun this time of year. Uh, we can't watch everything that we want to watch. There's just too much. There's like fucking 7 Halloween movies. There's 13 Friday the 13th movies. There's at least a dozen or at least 10 Nightmare on Elm Street films. And if I told you this, I apologize because I'm babbling on and on. Uh, After the Wheel of Time finale last week, we were a nervous wreck. I just watched it again. That's the way I am. I just popped it right on. Our daughter, at her own place, needed to watch something to detox from the Wheel of Time finale, so she picked Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And Mrs. Comic, she likes scary shit, but she's not a big fan of all the slashing into blood and all that shit. So me, we were in too deep on the Wheel of Time finale rewatch. I would have been a dick move for me to pull the plug on that and then put on Nightmare on Elm Street 3 because it's Nightmare on Elm Street 2. So then I asked our daughter the next day, how was Nightmare on Elm Street 3? Is it worth me watching it? She said, well, it has the Freddy Krueger and the Blades and all the things that you would normally expect to get from Nightmare on Elm Street. So if you want those things, they're in there, and that ruined all the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies for me because you only need the first one. The first one's always the best. Sometimes it's fun to watch the worst one, but basically they stuck to the franchise there. Um, I will recommend to you folks a couple of real scorchers. There is a film called The Other, and it was remade called, they put an S on it, The Others, and that has Nicole Kidman in it. That's a great scare, by the way. The remake, that's a hell of a remake, but they twanged it a little bit. They put an S on there and made it The Others instead of The Other. Track down the old Other. It's The Other. I think Uta Hagen's in it. I think she's a brilliant uh, foreign actress and taught methods of acting. That's one of the scariest fucking things. We're gonna watch that this year. So we got so much scary shit to watch. Um, more scary movies. Sometimes I get so jealous of how Mrs. Comic watches scary movies. She gets pulled into them and she watches them exactly how whoever made them would like them to watch the thing. Me, I'm a dickhead and I just watch things and I try to figure out how things are done. So if they get to the point where they scare me, they've really earned their scream out of me. Uh, so now when you're watching the scary stuff too, like I said, you have to pace yourself to line things up so they match up a teeny tiny little bit with Halloween. But what happens does every year is we don't have time for everything. We do not have time for everything. Um, the one it's a series now. It was a movie. It's called Let the Right One In. Wow, that the old again. Go for the old one. There's a remake, and there's an actual series. Go for the old original one. I don't know the year, but just go back as far as you can. Let the right one in. That is really fucking scary. Now, Mrs. Comic stayed home on this night, but uh, our daughter and I went to see a play production of that. It wasn't a musical.
Theater.
A theater play, and it was really fucking scary. A theater is can be silly and ridiculous, but this was really fucking scary. And this was an incredible art theater on the other side of New York. We're going into Brooklyn, down by the water there, and that's a kind of a teeny tiny weird, scary neighborhood. Some of it's artsy, some of it's real scary. Our daughter was directing traffic, and I didn't know where to go, and I was panicking down under the bridge. And she said, "Go, you're right there. Just drive straight across this thing." I literally did not see a fucking street across the street. I saw fucking one of those things like in the Roadrunner cartoons where the coyote's looking at a cave and then it runs through the paper. So somehow I don't know how I saw that, but when we walked into that small theater, it was already it wasn't a graveyard. It was a night walk through the forest. So you walked into the theater and it was fucking gorgeous, and it was ground level the theater. So you lost that whole it's just a thing up on the stage. It was like right there, and you just fucking sat there. And as we sat there and waited for this thing to start, we were talking to my daughter. I'm like, "This is gonna be really scary." And she goes, "Oh, you have no idea." That's her thing. You have no idea. I hear it all the time. Somehow, I don't know if she got this had come to us from either Ireland or was across the pond, so it was tried and true. They weren't road testing it. This thing came over, and apparently she had seen clips or reviews or whatever, and I'm telling you, it scared the fuck out of us. It's a vampire story. That's what it is, a vampire story. And they had such an incredible job of it. Um, it was minimal, listic. People, it's the first time I'd ever been to a theatrical performance where the audience did a collective gasp. Small theater, 200 people, did at 1, 2, 3, all of us. It was like, and that scared us because the gasp and the that's like a personal thing, and you hope nobody else heard it. We all fucking did it, and we couldn't laugh because we understood how fucking scared we were because we could see what was going to happen to us next, as there was a coffin sitting there, and we just thought it was a prop, and it fucking wasn't a prop. And when the thing went down and came out of this thing, it just really scared the fuck out of us. And they did another one of those to us, and the audience did a collective scream together, which I had never. We're talking theater. We're talking like you know, theaters like Goofy and it's Broadway and all. Scared the absolute fuck out of us. So let the right one in. I don't know if you ever get a chance to see that as a performance. That scared us. We screamed. But the old film is really fucking frightening, and the theatrical performance we saw was kind of, sort of like that. Now, uh, Mrs. Comic and I got scared at a David Bowie theatrical. What is that? A theater? I don't even know what we call stuff. It's not a play, and it's not a musical. It is a very artsy. It's like a play with music. I think there's a name for that. It's just a theater piece, small theater. Lazarus, can't even say Lazarus. It was it's basically a scary version of The Man Who Fell to Earth, and Michael C. Hall, Dexter was in that, and that's what I have here. That leads me to another story. That's the Dexter hand with the fingernails painted, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That was really scary. How our daughter, the tickets were cheap. It sold out. Like, it was limited run. It was, though he was still alive, but he was in poor health, and he had been involved in this production in the village, and the possibly might have had like a 3 week run, maybe a 2 month run. I don't remember, but 200-seat theater, and there was no online ticketing. You had to phone in to get tickets or go to the box office. So there was also a $20 preview, and so we had a lock on tickets. I think I don't remember how we did it. I think we got them online, but the $20 preview show, you had to call for those. So um, I OCD, and I called, and the tickets were gone online. Oh, that was it. The online system was too slow to actually make the sale. So I was seeing if there were any on, and I was phoning in. I was trying to get a single seat for our daughter. Fuck it, we'll just go up, and the tickets were all gone. They're all gone. But I'm OCD, so I'll just fucking sit there and click, because I know if I click on that enough fucking times, the seats will come back. And I'll tell you how I know that is true, because we've all bought concert tickets or whatever, and you had them in your cart, and then they were fucking gone. So I was counting on somebody else's purchase fucking up, that their ticket would be gone, something fucked up. They would release the seats, and I could fucking swoop it up like a dickhead. And I found one that just fucking popped up, and I was trying to figure out what the seat location was. So our daughter's gonna go see this thing twice. Once for the opening night or the second run of the thing, $20 seat, a small theater. I mean, this thing is like a giant living room. Um, but I couldn't figure out where her seat was, and then I had a seating chart, but the number of the ticket that I purchased wasn't on his fucking chart. So then I looked at other shows at that theater, and I realized that I had purchased a handicap seat for this show. Now, I didn't have any problems with that. But I called the box office, and they got pounded because it's a membership theater company, and the people who are members, they expect fucking tickets before everybody else. You can't blame them. That's why you become a member of things. So their system crashed. They had a lot of shit go wrong. The box office was getting pounded with hate. I mean, it's a David Bowie theater piece with Michael C. Hall in it, and the person who did the stage thing, not Werner Herzog, but Werner Herzog of theater. So they were getting pounded. So I called up and I said, I think I possibly accidentally purchased a single seat for my daughter, but I think it is a handicap seat, and I'm okay with that because I'm a dick. I'm not going to turn it back in. I just want to know if there's an actual seat there, or do I need to rent a wheelchair for her to wheel her into that spot, which I'm perfectly willing to do because this is very exciting. And the lady laughed so hard, she said, "Man, you made my day because I've been dealing with every asshole. I've been getting pounded, and no, there'll be an actual seat there." Uh, so that was an exciting thing. Now that leads us to a scary story. Now, Mrs. Comic and I went to see it. We took our daughter and her boyfriend. Again, small theater. We were in pretty good, like in the center of things. Um, oh, that's another fun thing that happened was to our daughter. It's important to the story is that the if this would be the theater. Okay, so there's a stage right there, and back here would be the handicap sections in the far deep corners. She was back here, and it's still a fantastic seat. At the very last second, somebody from the theater usher said, "We would you like a better seat because we have like the guy who built the whole theater. So the best seat in the house, dead center, 4 rows back, maybe three, wasn't there, and it looked kind of fucking stupid because they actually didn't want the actors to see an empty seat on the second preview of Dave Bowie piece of music. So our daughter went from not having to have a wheelchair to sit in the deep corner to going front and right in the center there, and something happened in this performance and she didn't tell us, and it scared the fuck out of her. There's a scene where they release all these balloons just like a dance club, and then somebody goes fucking nuts over the cuckoo's nest, and he's stabbing these fucking balloons, but it's in poor lighting, so you don't understand what's happening right away. But all of a sudden, all these fucking balloons are popping up. So again, that was a long way to get to a thing where theater can scare the fuck out of you. Theater can scare the fuck out of you. Um, so there was another point to that, but I don't think I'll be able to make it now. But that was a fun story anyway, wasn't it?
Kevin Keller asked, "Have we seen children shouldn't play with dead things?" It's one of his favorites.
Kevin Keller wants to know if we saw
Children
shouldn't play with dead things. That's one of his favorite films. That speaks volumes about Kevin Keller. And I don't know if we've seen it, but we're going to definitely put that on the list here. Now, instead of trying to read through comments and all that shit, I'm going to write here Kevin Keller's
One of his favorites.
children shouldn't play with dead things. That's a good parent right there who says that.
That sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Also, I'm making a note here. If I watch it and it sucks, it's Kevin Keller's fault. How about that? So that's fantastic right there. Oh, right there. That's really good. Yeah, we have so much to watch. But I can look it up now, but that's not really good live entertainment for me to Google the IMDb. That's another thing that can fuck me up. When I want to watch a movie and really watch it, I want to sit with it, and I want to be in a dark room, and I want to watch a scary thing. Some things I put on for background so I can dick around and write comedy, or fuck around, play Pokemon Go or whatever the hell it is. But some things I really like to really watch, and on that theme, I have to drop some of these links for things. David Lynch is doing a little interview, and he's really fucking mad about people watching movies on their phones. It's like, do you know what kind of work goes into these films? And it's presented as the dark, scary, creepy thing, like you would want to scream in a theater. And you're gonna watch it on a phone? Are you fucking kidding me? It's a fantastic commercial, but it says, don't watch this shit on your phones. What else is scary and good?
Jay Red asked, "Did you ever see the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre?"
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I have seen it. And for me, that's one of those things where I don't really ever need to see that again. Uh, although I probably will sometime. So I've seen that. Another one that fits into that category. It's one of those things. There's some movies that are so fucking. I wouldn't say they're good or bad, but you almost have to see them if you love horror movies, and then it's a one-off for me. Last House on the Left is one of the most fucking frightening and scary and horrible things that I've saw it, and I'll probably never need to see it again. So, um, yeah, I can't. I'm drawing a blank now as for what we want to watch here. Let's see. Oh, I know what I can do. No, that ain't gonna do any good. Let's see here. Drawing a blank. Of course, The Shining. That's one of my favorites. Love The Shining. Visual, awesome. Uh, Creepily, I can do lines from The Shining, and always looking forward to that. And
We saw that weird Russian film.
oh my God,
V or B or something.
yeah, it's we're gonna have to learn how to spell that thing. Hang on now. Why? It's a weird Russian horror film, and for the life of me, son of a bitch now. It's three letters. It might be Vi, and there's no subtitles, but you don't need them because it's awesomely. It's actually a little cartoony, but also can be scary. So now that's something you'll never get to watch because I don't know.
VIY.
What is it?
VIY it's spelled.
VIY. I think we saw it on Amazon Prime, so check that out. That was a. I always say that was definitely a fun watch. Um, let's see here. Wrong face. That's just silly notes. That's Kevin Keller. I have to hold him accountable for that film. Let's see. Scared by. That should be a little scary, just me sitting there staring and doing nothing. I know Mrs. Comic was afraid because what the hell's he going to do? I didn't really know. Um, Scary movies, if you Google them, okay, right? If you Google scary movies, make sure you get a list that you can trust. Like, and make sure it's not a sponsored ad. Roll through all the ones to get like the top 100 things. Another thing that can fuck me up when I'm watching scary movies is, and it's just a terrible curse here. I'm gonna Google this shit right now. Let's see. Scariest movies all time. What can fuck me up? Sometimes I have to pause the movie. If I see an actor or an actress in a horror movie and I can't pinpoint them, I'll go, and I say the dumbest thing. I go, "Oh, you see them? They're in stuff." No fucking shit. Like when you're watching anything, what are the odds of it being that person's first anything? Of course they're in shit, but I can't quite put a finger on it. And sometimes it is a much younger version of them. So that's good fun stuff, and you can kind of catch their face a little bit. Sometimes that can fuck you up too. The other thing that can fuck me up when I'm watching things hasn't happened with movies too much, but I've not had bad luck with it. Going to see things in New York, like in Broadway and all that, I will see someone on stage, and they will look exactly like a goofy fuck that I know, and the whole thing is ruined for me. The whole thing is fucking ruined. So if I see anything like that, so here we go. What came up on this list is, of course, the Halloween movies, The Haunting, The Ring. I don't know how scary some of these are. Let's see here. Popular thrillers. The Nosferatu.
Oh, we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that one last week, but Mrs. Comic wanted me to talk about it again, and so that we could say, "Oh, we talked about that last week, so we don't have to talk about it now." I'm old school with the horror movies too. Uh, Nobody's going to get nightmares from like watching the original Frankenstein and Invisible Man and those kind of things. But what I love about those old films is when the scary thing was happening, especially Dracula, you didn't really have to do much. Just kind of like just fucking really scary, deadpan eyes and all that shit. Ultimately, they're gonna go burn a barn down, or they're gonna go fucking trash a place, and it seems like they didn't care if that person got paid. You know, if the Invisible Man was in your barn and he had no clothes on, they had to burn your fucking barn down to get him out of there. You lose your barn. So in the old days, they just trashed whatever the fucking building is where the thing was hiding in. That's scary to me right there. Oh, here's one of the scary things that happened to me. Um, I didn't even forget about this. We haven't gone for a while, but Mrs. Comic, when we got together, she said that when she was little, they always went camping. They went in the woods, and that's really fun, but also really scary. And so I'm in my old age anymore. We discovered cabins, rustic cabins. It's almost like camping, but you're dry and warm and all that fun stuff. But if you do tent camping, it's quite a lot of work, and even to go to the bathroom, then you got to go in groups with flashlights. So it's me and Mrs. Comic and her three children, which are my children also, um, little, and we walked in a group down to the men and women's rooms. It's I mean it's indoor plumbing, so but it wasn't that great, but it was better than making a wee wee in the woods. So for reasons I couldn't tell you. Oh, I know why. We didn't have any money. Um, we had like one flashlight between like five of us. So we're walking, and then all of a sudden we were getting close to this thing, and it was still dark. I was a little afraid because I I just stopped walking. Like I couldn't move my fucking right foot, and it was really dark. I didn't have the slightest idea. It kind of sort of felt like I walked under a tree, and somehow my foot was under a tree, and it hurt a little bit like a motherfucker, but I couldn't scream because the kids were little. I said, give me the flashlight," and I took the flashlight to see what was on top of my foot, and a fucking deer walked and put its front left hoof on my right foot, and it was afraid, and I was afraid, and I don't even remember how the fuck I got out of it. But that's pretty scary if you are walking in the woods and all of a sudden you can't lift up your foot, and it's a deer. It's kind of like a good bad scenario because that fucking hurt. It scared us both, but it also wasn't anything more horrible than that. So
My dad was stuck in an outhouse because the skunk was guarding the door. He couldn't come out for a long time.
Mrs. Comic's father, on one of these camping trips, was stuck in an outhouse because of a skunk. Now, that's funny now, but I think at the time,
No.
and this goes again back to little things that can scare us. That's way worse than what happened to me on the camping trip with Mrs. Comic and the kids. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then it's just fucking terrible, and I can't sleep on rocks, no matter how much they say the sleeping bag and the pad. I can't fucking sleep on rocks. So I got up to go make a wee wee, and they had little shitty toilets, but nobody's up, so I didn't want to pee in the trees or on tents and shit. So old style urinals, like you would see at the really old theaters, were in this thing, and I was gonna pee. I had started to pee, and right next to me wasn't right next to me, it was right at me. There was a frog in my urinal that I happened to be pissing not on, but like like near him. So the horror with me was I don't want to piss on a frog. First of all, that's just fucking horrible. I plead innocence because he's a dumbass, decided to go just set up shop in the urinal. But now my terror is I gotta finish my pee, and my pee can't be turned off. Dogs, when they turn their pee off, like this alarm I can turn right off, but you can't turn your pee off. So I had to have my pee see itself to its exciting conclusion. All the while, I remember begging the frog not to leap out at me and get my pee on myself plus other people's pee. So nothing bad happened, but you can appreciate the moment that it was absolutely a horrible thing. Um, this goes back to some more fun stuff of camping and scary shit. Um, oh, Mrs. Comics. Well, I got Mrs. Comic. What do they call it? A ready-made family. She has kids, absolutely amazing, intelligent, fun kids, and they used to trick me all the time. I was coming over to see Mrs. Comic, who was not yet Mrs. Comic, and it was this time of year party, and there were a bunch of kids there. It was over at her mother's house. Beautiful home, fireplace. It's a good place to tell scary stories. Not that the place was scary, but that's what you want, fireplace and all the fun ambiance of that. So I didn't know this because it was a kid party. I just popped in to say hello to my beautiful someday wife over there. And when I walked in, her littlest one said, "Oh boy, he's here." I'm smart enough to know something was expected of me because you don't just say, "Oh boy, he's here." So it turns out I had been volunteered as the official ghost story teller. I think they were playing the game Green Ghost, and we had to put stuff in. I think we put little stuff in there, or we put stuff in bags
Like
and,
grapes.
and put grapes in bags, and people had to reach in there, and then I would tell them it was eyeballs, and they'd scream and all that shit. So I actually was very good at that, and it's probably better that that you didn't tell me ahead of time, because I probably would have wrote all kinds of weird comedy and shit that would have been not appropriate for those kids. Now, scary noises, that's always fun stuff. Um, I've told this story before now. This was from the Clee days, but it actually wasn't Clee. Oh yeah, Clee was on for the day shift. So down where we live now, Mayes area is, and down 100 is Green Lane Reservoir, which we used to hang out there and party in the park, but we didn't do any drinking. You can do the math there. So we went down in the day and we hiked around this thing, and I think Clee was along. Clee, Frank, I can't remember if you were along in the day or not. Mrs. Comic wasn't along. Frank was going to have a date that night and bring his date to walk in this park. It was nice and dark and scary, and I guess a little romantic because it really wasn't that scary. Actually, wasn't really a park; it was a reservoir with woods, so there weren't really trails per se. So we found in the day there was dead deer laying by a tree. I somehow it didn't phase us. We weren't dumb enough to hang around where dead deer was. We just kept walking. Then there was a old rusty sledgehammer is what it was, and Frank picked it up and brought it back and set it by the deer, thus creating the fun horror film idea that there's a lunatic running around smashing things with a sledgehammer like it fucking crushes deer with the sledgehammer. So Frank brought his date there, and he told her the story how there was actually they didn't want to stay too long but he wanted to show her the park because it's a place we hang out and it's really cool. But there was a lunatic escaped mental institution patient running around killing things with a sledgehammer. So I don't know if she screamed, but I know she definitely saw it. And the reason that I know this to be true is that relationship didn't really work out. So if you're thinking of going on a date with someone and you have the opportunity to put a rusty sledgehammer by a dead deer and say that there's escaped mental institution patient running around that park, I would suggest you do not unless you want to get out of that relationship. So that's fun, scary story right there.
Susan asked if you've seen Phantasm. She She said that one
I-
freaked her out.
I have seen Phantasm. Richter, thank you very much for the bourbon balls, bucks right there. Phantasm is one of those ones where I will see it again. And I saw it way back, however many years ago, and I think I had my fill of it. Then enough time went by. Phantasm is so fucking retro. That is an amazing film. So thank you, Susan Clee. I'm gonna call her Clee, sister. I'm gonna put that down. Now that's a much safer pick. Clee's sister, reminding me Phantasm is awesome. She doesn't have to suffer the Kevin Keller fate of possibly the movie sucking, and that kind of judgment right there. So there's more stuff there. Just wait. I'm gonna put this back here. Let's see here. My show actually ended, but put the Clee heads back up there a minute. I got my bra straps falling down. Then Mrs. Comic is over here, and I've now left the room. Let's see here. All right, that's fun. This here, those, that, other. That's I'm breaking shit. Where are you gonna get live entertainment like this? Where are you gonna get live entertainment where somebody's just gonna run off camera? I have, see, on the other side of the wall here, I have, which is now considered to be old technology, DVDs, Blu-rays. It's mostly horror. That's mostly what's there. This is really fun. Uh, Beyond belief, fact or fiction. These are so much fun. I think these also stream. They're not scary, but they are scary. And I've watched these fucking dozens of times, and they make you guess. And he always makes it seem like I have to explain. He says, how do you explain that the lady's foot was in the garage? How do you explain that? I don't have to fucking explain anything. I'm the audience. You're the fucking explaining man, right? So you're supposed to guess if there it is, fact or fiction. And at the end, there's like a little quiz, and then they recap the stories, and then you got to vote. Someone who watches these all the time and can't fucking remember if it was fact or fiction, it's me. But which makes it fun for me to watch them. I can keep watching them because I don't remember if it was fucking fact or fiction. And then I'll do this. When we do this, they'll tell the story because is it possible that the jealous wife chopped up the husband and then grew into a tree and came back and then chopped up the new girlfriend? Could a thing like this happen? And then I'll sit there and I'll go, it could not happen. And that's why I know for a fact that it did happen, because that's why it's in that fucking show, because it seems like it couldn't happen, but it actually did happen. And then I'll change it a million times. And then when he says the right thing, and then I'll say, yes, that really happened. They say, well, we yanked your chain on that one. That didn't happen. I'll sit here and I'll go, I was gonna say that it didn't happen, and I didn't fucking stay committed to my thing. So that's really a lot of fun. And here is what you're looking for. The Other. That's the one right there. A there's creepy kid in it. It's absolutely incredible. Uta Hagen is absolutely brilliant. This is one of the fucking scariest things you will ever see. Um, well, someone that watches DVDs instead of streaming stuff is probably scary also. So I don't know that it was worth me leaving the room and running around the corner to go get those things, because there was a whole bunch of things, scary movies I was going to yank off the shelf there. But just from those two, three other things fell off the shelf. Now I gotta fucking pick up after this. So I thought there's only so many things that I would want to pick up before. Uh, I don't even know what words mean anymore, because I'm trying to get to a story that just goes back to shit that scares us. That's a surprise. So our amazing daughter, all grown up now, got a house, and she works at a medical marijuana dispensary, and so when she was teeny tiny, little, it was me and Mrs. Comet. The other kids were all grown up, and she had her little kid seat in a small car. We always had small cars, and she liked to put her feet up on the console, and then car shifter, automatic. I think we had a car that shifted. So my arm would always be here, and this would be the center console, and her feet would come up, and I used to shift them for fun, and then she'd giggle. We had all kinds of fun, and this was our game. The feet would come up, and I'd scream, "What a how?" Whatever, and then tickle the feet, shift the feet, whatever. When she went one night and scared the fuck out of me, she went and put Cabbage Patch Kid doll there, and there were and I was reaching for what I thought was our adorable daughter's feet. I got fucking doll feet, and the fucking doll feet scare the fuck out of me. Dolls are fucking scary. I talked about that. The Disney ride. It's a small world with all the doll faces. Dolls are fucking scary. So she got me there. Also, when you're driving, you really have to control your scare because if you scream or go fucking nuts, you just smash the car up. So she zinged me there. Um, I scared the fuck out of our friend Frank when he was part of running around in the Clee days, and he actually had Clee do an art wall for him. And then that sucks when you're moving out of a place and you have a Clee, like you can't sell a place and then say, "Can I take that wall with me?" So he moved up to Connecticut, and it's you don't know anybody. You just don't know anybody. So he got a little lonely up there, and we had run around down here, and he was part of all the fun of going and pretending that we killed a deer with a sledgehammer and all that shit. So I try to do some things to make his day more fun, and the one thing that I did backfired a little bit. Now the technology back then was there was no cell phones. We had landlines. That was it. We had no DVDs, nothing streamed. We also had me and a VHS player, VCR. One flew over the cuckoo's nest, and I had to get it to the right part, and I had to have the volume perfect, and I ran tests. So I was going to call his number. I knew I was going to get his answering machine, and I had it synced up to the film. And when it leave a message at the beep, I had the cuckoo's nest when they're going out on a boat, and Jack Nicholson's introducing all the nutcases, and that was a part. I don't know why I thought this would be funny. It scared the fuck out of him. He came home and he was already like feeling vulnerable and lonely, and up in a new place up there, and it's kind of small and dark and a little creepy. And so he was excited to see there was a message blinking, and there was no caller ID. Then you didn't know, oh, this nitwit called him up. So when he played the message, what he heard was, "We're from the state mental institution." That's Dr. Scanlon over there, Dr. Cheswick, famous Dr. Cheswick, and he scared the fuck out of me. He knows the movie. He loves the movie. He figured it out by the end, but I got hell for that because he's like, he gives me, I'm coming home from work. I'm not stable. I'm trying to figure things out up here. And I'm thinking, why the hell would the state mental institution call me and all these fucking doctors yet? Why is this not just one doctor? A lot of shit is wrong. Once we're from the state mental institution and we got 9 fucking doctors on the line here. That was probably one of my finest scare me moments. So, I mean, that's probably the end of the show.
Yeah.
So,
The mental institution called you one time to do a show.
oh, that is Mrs. Comic.
You already
Tear
told
it up for Mrs. Comic. This is not a scary story, but it is a scary story because of what happened. So, going back to the Bearman and Keith days, when they had events, I was invited to everything. It was great publicity, a lot of fun going on. They did diner tour. And he hopped around like once a week. They'd be at whatever diner. So he happened to be at the Emmaus Diner. I went in there because it's close to home. And during the whatever I was doing on the radio, Bearman, absolutely amazing. I think we were on the air. He goes, Raymond, I don't know why, but you have a phone call right now. So somebody called the diner during our live show, and they would like to talk to you. And here's even more fun: it's the Allentown State Mental Institution. So the Allentown State Mental Institution called me on the Bearman and Keith show live at the diner, and they called the diner. I guess they just let Bearman pick up the phone, and they booked me for a Halloween fall harvest wahoo at the state mental institution. It was supposed to be a kind of a employees celebration, appreciation, and the patients all for one big wahoo. And I had quizzed the people that were hiring me. I said, well, it's the mental institution people. Are they going to even, are they people who could enjoy stand-up comedy? There, I said it right there. So they said, oh yeah, it's fine. So it turns out that that place got shut down a couple years later for misuse of funds, probably which of some that I spent on us and on our children. But if you've never been to a state mental institution, an old one, go if you have a chance to visit someone. I don't think there's many left anymore. I think they
You can
think
tour them for ghost tours.
yeah, you can tour them as conversations. You can tour them for ghost things, but going to one with actual patients in it is everything you think it would be from horror movies. Horror movies got that right. You just come in, and I got to go. I get locked and unlocked and let in through so many different doorways and escorted to the next checkpoint, and then that doorway, in case the loonies escape, right? In case the loonies escape, they can't fucking get out because it's. But also, if the loonies go nuts and I got to escape, I can't fucking get out either. In fact, one movie they filmed over there.
Oh, that was M. Night.
M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong. It was a sequel to something. They filmed that over there, and I think that was externals though. I don't think they were actually in the mental. They actually were in the mental institution. That was one of the scariest fucking places I'd ever been in, and you can't really piss people off in there either because they're in charge of seeing if you can get out. So the it turns out that the people that hired me mostly hired me for the workers, and they understood that the patients weren't going to give a flying fuck if I was there. And I picked up on this right away. And if you've never performed at a mental institution, what I like to do is, unless I'm performing at a fire hall or I know it's a me show, I will like to incorporate some of my environment into the show or mock people that work wherever if it's a private gig. So that's what it was. So uh, and the people, bear in mind, the people that hired me really love this. I've never performed at a mental institution, so I was like, are there any paranoid people here tonight? Any paranoid people? And that's a joke because if you're paranoid, you don't want someone to say, are there any paranoid people here? Where are the neurotics? Are the neurotics here? How about the psychotics? How about, are there any schizophrenics here tonight? I'm there. Yes, we're over here. We're over there. I'm over here. We're over there. So the people that hired me were having a ball, and the patients rightly just stared at me. And so I ran an experiment. I said, I'm having a wonderful time, but I'm not the primary audience here. I believe you folks wouldn't even notice if I wasn't here. So I'm going to go on the other side of the curtain, which I did, and I'm going to perform from the other side of the curtain, and I will remain there until you, not the workers, but you, the patients, show me some kind of message that you miss me and you'd rather I would be back on this side of the curtain. We played chicken and I fucking lost. I was on the other side of the curtain for 10, 15 minutes and they didn't give a flying fuck. And I'm like, all right, that's it. This is fucking stupid. I'm coming back out. So But that was really fucking scary, to go into a state mental institution. So there's that. And see, now that's a sucky way to end the show. But what are you gonna do? I mean, that's the way it is. Um,
We hope everybody's doing well.
that's not a very scary way to end the show. Mrs. Comic says we hope everybody's doing well. That's not scary, but we do. We hope everybody's doing well. Um, Thanks for tuning in. We love you folks, and I wish I was better prepared, but I always wish that. And so I'll try to get a list of scary movies that I recommend, and also thanks for the suggestions here tonight. And also, if you have more, keep them coming. And that's pretty much it, man. Uh, Enjoy this time of the year. It's an amazing time of the year. Be selective on things that you order that have pumpkin in them, because some suck, like them pumpkin popsicles I got that I couldn't fucking give away on trick or treat. So enjoy yourselves. We will. I'm fairly confident we'll be back next Tuesday because I do have a show Friday night. It's Fire Hall show, and I think hallelujah. I do not think the Phillies are playing Friday night, so yeehaw for that. And the Saturday night show I have is a private Halloween party. Uh, Kudos to anybody who wants to hire me for a Halloween party. That's badass there. That puts us back here streaming live next week. I have to write. I'm gonna write. I'm gonna take the Pepsi challenge, even though it's Coca-Cola. I'm gonna write some of my fucking scary story. And now, if I don't, that makes me a lying dick. And I don't want to be a lying dick. I want to be the guy who said scary thing. So now I'm totally out of stuff to say. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to leave you with this incredible Klee artwork. I have to get more stuff in here. You folks rock. We love you. Don't be a dick to anybody unless it's called for.